Liberty Unfiltered. And here's your host, Steve Long.
Hey folks, you are listening to Liberty Unfiltered. I'm your host, Steve Long, right here on Vigilant Liberty Radio. And as always, I'm being picked up as well by K98 Talk and by the Spark Radio Network. I want to thank those guys for picking us up. Gonna have a great show tonight. Well, as great as the show can really be. In just a few minutes, I'm going to be bringing on my guest, and I'll introduce him in a bit. Of course, we'll have our Once Upon a Time in America segment later after the break. Going to have our Geek Minute, where we're going to talk about some movies that came out this year. In addition to all that, I've got a little subject that I need to talk about that kind of started to irritate me today, so yeah, we'll get to that later. Anyway, let's jump right in. We've got a young man here who is originally from Bangladesh, and he took a trip to Syria to do some aid work. From what I understand, he was out going to go and help some refugees there. And while he was there, he was mistaken as an American spy and then abducted and also tortured. So we're going to listen to his story and hopefully see the other side, or things from the other side of the world. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and bring him on. Give me just one moment to get him on here. Hello, Mein.
Hi, Steve.
Hello. You are on Liberty Unfiltered. Thanks for coming on the show tonight.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Steve.
Great. So just to kind of start things off here, from what I understand, you were on an aid mission in Syria, helping out some refugees, I think. That's
what I was trying to do, okay. But the people who took me in, who are connected to these aid organizations and looked like, in Turkey, they looked like they were stand-up aid people. They turned out to be some kind of militants, and they were the ones that tortured me when they took me into Syria.
Yeah. So, if I understand from an early conversation, these guys that abducted you, or for lack of a better term, they were not affiliated with ISIS at all, were they?
No, they're not really affiliated with ISIS, although some of them might sympathize with them or something like that, but not generally, no, they were not really ISIS. I went to, Syria has 3 or 4 major divisions. So there's the section which is ISIS, and it's under ISIS domination. Then there is another section in the northwest that is generally occupied, or at presently occupied by the rebels, the Syrian rebels. There are about 2,000 different groups, and they're kind of not ISIS, and they're not the Assad regime either. So most of the aid work actually happens in this area, because the ISIS area, nobody can really go there unless you want to join them or something. And of course the Assad regime also, I'm not sure about how aid works there, but I'm sure that not a lot of people go to Assad.
So let's go ahead and start, I guess, somewhat from the beginning. Just kind of give us a description of everything that happened.
Okay, so I was in Turkey and I was thinking of trying to do some aid work, and some very famous person that I know who was with, who had previously done work with IHH, a major aid organization, they recommended me to this guy who seems like from the outside to be like a stand-up,
like a legitimate organization. Mine, you still with me? I think I have lost you. I'm going to try to call him back. Folks, so he is calling from the other side of the world, but I didn't really think that should have anything to do with our connection. But that's all right. We're going to try to get him back.
and they they waterboarded me. They even tried to electrocute me, but the waterboarding. Sorry?
At some point during the conversation, we actually lost our connection.
Okay.
So I think we missed part of your story.
Sorry.
That's all right.
What was the last?
I think there might have been a bad connection on our Skype. I think we stopped around you saying that you had thought this organization, when you were in Turkey, you thought this organization was legitimate.
Yes, I mean the names that they gave, like IHH or UK to Syria and all these big names, they're like it sounds like completely legit, and these organizations actually work with these guys, and they actually work for them directly. So I had no clue that this was going to be some kind of militant group or something like that. So these guys are aid workers come militants. They want to play both roles. So when they took me in to Syria, I began to see that this is not really aid work per se. And after about 10 days, and they were very suspicious of me because I was really not interested in becoming a militant, and I was trying to play along, but this was not really, my demeanor increasingly became such that they were suspicious of me, and they suspected me. Can you hear me, Steve?
Yeah, I can hear you good.
Okay. They suspected me that I'm I'm an American spy, and then they just tortured me. They tortured me. They waterboarded me. I'm not an American spy. I'm not even American. Yeah. So then after that they couldn't get it out of me that I'm an American spy or something. So then they handed me over to another group. They handed me over to Jabhat al-Nusra, which is Al-Qaeda in Syria. And surprisingly, these guys, they did not torture me. Although the previous group told me that when they're sending me to these guys, they'll torture me worse. But they kind of, for about 1 week, they interrogated me in a very polite way, and eventually they were like, okay, you can go if you want to. So after that, there was I was waiting for my passport to be returned, because the first group, the guys who got me in, they had my passport. But when they got the passport, the second group, Jabhat al-Nusra, they handed me back to those guys, because I had already gone. Well, I was confident I was going to go back, so I had done something stupid, which was I went online and I put my story that I was tortured by these guys.
Oh, okay.
So then when I ended up again back to these guys, they were they again pretty much beat me up. They didn't really torture me the second time around, because the second group told them that this is not something they want to be part of, and this is not something they want to do. They want to be known for torturing just random people without evidence.
Right.
And they kind of because of the second group, I was not tortured the second time. And after some time, the second group, they realized that I was not being released by these guys. So some of them, disobeying orders, they came and they rescued me from the first group, and after some time they let me go. So they just took me to the border and said, just run across, and I ran across and I was back in Turkey. So that's kind of what happened in short summary.
So being in Turkey, were you more or less in a safe zone?
Yes, Turkey is a very safe zone. Like, nobody can, hurt you easily in Turkey. So I was back in Turkey, and then I just took a bus. I went to the airport, I took a plane, and I came back home.
Well, I mean, it's amazing that you survived this encounter, because all the stories we hear here in America are of people being kidnapped by groups like ISIS, and they never see the light of day. I mean, most of the stories we hear coming from that part of the country, or part of the world rather, is of people being beheaded.
Yes. That was actually a possibility, because when I had written what had happened to me online and put it online, and the second group caught up with me, the first group caught up with me again, the first thing they told the second group, which I was then with, was that, we have a grave prepared for him, we're going to kill him, and that's it. But the second group, kind of saved me, in the sense that they told him, if you touch this guy, we're going to kill you, something like that. So that was kind of very kind of them, or, some amount of kindness on their part. And they, even though they handed me back to them, and I felt really bad about that, because I didn't expect that, some of them did come and rescue me from those guys, because they were keeping me in forced labor. So after that, it was, and they let me go, and the second group actually let me go, like Jabhat al-Nusra, Al-Qaeda in Syria, they let me go, because they realized I'm not an American spy, and I came with a good intention, and I am a good Muslim. I pray, and I fast, I do all these things. So they realized I'm not an American spy. So somehow in the end they let me go, and the whole ordeal was about 2 months and 10 days. But I'm safe at home again, so I'm really grateful that I made it back. Not, as you said, not many people actually make it back.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting. You said, you specifically said Al-Qaeda in Syria. Is Al-Qaeda in Syria a different organization than the one we hear about on the mainstream media and that sort of thing?
They are kind of very different. They're called Jabhat al-Nusra. That's Arabic for the front for helping people. And the people generally there, they like them. The general people, they love them, because they're not corrupt, and they're very kind to the people. They are organizationally very different from Al-Qaeda as such, from what I understand, because Al-Qaeda is as I understood it, they work as cells, and they go, secretly operating and, doing, blowing things up. And
right.
But these guys are more like a militant group. So they're more like Hezbollah, in the sense that they have a territory within which everybody knows them, and they have command or authority over that territory. So they are more like, they're kind of somewhere halfway between, organizationally I would say that they're somewhere halfway between Al-Qaeda and ISIS. So they have some form, a little form of government, but they're also, a militant group.
Interesting. I never thought of the differing